All right. Good afternoon. Apologize for starting a little late today. It is after 3. The January 18th meeting of the Nantucket Board of Health is now open with a quorum present. Just a reminder, this meeting is being audio and visually recorded. Are there comments from the public on any issue or item that is not on today's agenda? Mr. Bender.
Hi, Steve Bender. This is the second of 4 comments I'm going to make directed to the comprehensive wastewater treatment plan. And this last meeting I talked about the sewers and what I thought were some problems with the plan. And this is going to be very short and sweet. It is the second comment, and it's directed towards the catch basins and what's the other word for them? Catch basins and whatever.
Those
anyway,
things.
The state Department of Public Utilities, not Public Utilities, Environmental Protection, is very much concerned with catch basins. And in fact, I'm going to read you a paragraph which is from a Chapter 91 amnesty license given to Winthrop Management Corporation relative to the parking lot downtown, which when this was written, which was 2009, that was the A&P, it's now the Stop and Shop. And this condition number 10 says, and I quote, the licensee shall, the licensee being the Winthrop Management Corporation, the licensee shall, as part of a regular maintenance regime, inspect all catch basins on the project site at intervals not to exceed 6 months in order to monitor their proper function. Sediment traps shall be cleaned as necessary. Within 90 days of license issuance, 2009, it's definitely 90 days, the licensee shall install and maintain in good working order sorbent pillows in all of the catch basins in the parking lot adjacent to Building G, which is now the Stop and Shop, as shown on the license plan. The licensee shall monitor the conditions of these catch basins by conducting field inspections at least every 2 months. Sorbent pillows shall be replaced as necessary based on the determination of the Conservation Commission or its designee. Inspection of all catch basins and any remedial actions taken shall be documented in an inspection log by the licensee and submitted to the Nantucket Conservation Commission upon request of said commission. Okay, of course, if you look at those, today you will see no sorbent pillows, and you will see they're filthy. And I brought this up to the Conservation Commission in 2016, and my feeling was that I could use this as a lever to get the town to start cleaning up its 100 or so catch basins. Okay, so the Concom was very surprised that they didn't do any of this, and neither did Winthrop. So a letter was written to Winthrop, and I'm not going to read the whole letter. What the paragraph I just read from the Chapter 91 is in the letter, and the letter ends. The Commission is requesting the maintenance log demonstrating cleaning of the catch basin sediment traps and the installation and maintenance of the absorption pillows for the last 3 years. If the catch basins are not in compliance with the special conditions we are requesting that be brought into compliance and documented within 30 days, we are requesting that a report be filed with the Commission every 2 months, etc., etc. Signed, Jeff Carlson, Natural Resources Coordinator. And what is the date of this letter? The date of this letter is 12/22/2016. So my question is Winthrop obviously environmentally responsible? Keep that in your mind, because they're looking to do some major work downtown, and they're probably going to try to pass off the environmental work onto the town. And what is going on at the Conservation Commission? That's all I have to say. The third will be about fertilizer, and the fourth I'm going to talk about recreational vessels, which are not even mentioned in that plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, the minutes of December 21st. Those have been circulated. Does anyone have any additions, subtractions, objections to those minutes from December 21st? Hearing none, do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the minutes approval of December 21st, say aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. Minutes are approved. The rest of the agenda looks extremely brief. Thank you. Waiver of fees request from the Board of Selectmen for 54 Low Beach Road.
Yes, asking for a waiver on the abandonment of the septic system there, and staff recommends approving.
My just question is, what happens when it gets abandoned?
Well, they would, and again, they would pump the tank, either crush it in place
The usual.
and fill, or use flowable fill. If there's a pit, they would do the same thing to both.
When we abandon, you go back and inspect
Yep.
if they've done all that?
Yes, we do, and yeah, thanks for reminding me. That would be part of, even though the fee is waived, we would still want to inspect that abandonment.
All the usual. So you're asking, any questions from the board?
No.
So I'm looking for a motion that we will waive the fees at 54 Low Beach Road. However, we will not waive the usual procedures of closing on a tank.
So I make a motion that we waive the fees, but I would also add to ask a report from staff that the follow-up that was just reviewed had been accomplished.
Excellent. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman
Aye.
votes aye. ACO for 4 South Cambridge.
Okay, we have a technically failed septic system there, 5 foot, I think it's 5.1 foot separation of groundwater. It's in Nantucket Harbor watershed, which is one of the watersheds that is approved for the ACO. We absolutely recommend approving entrance into the ACO.
Any reasons not to?
They wouldn't- really
Any
wouldn't.
outstanding issues?
No, there's no outstanding issues on the property. The system is got an inspection, is functioning. It's just the separation issue.
It's a separation issue.
Yeah.
Comments, questions from the board? Do I hear a motion for approval of the ACO for Fort Cambridge?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the ACO, say aye. Do you have it for me to sign? Or, yeah. I prefer to do it before I leave, otherwise it'll
Yeah. Oh, here you go.
get lost somewhere.
That it will.
So Art, why is the agenda so
I don't know.
so
We're lucky.
small?
Very lucky.
Okay, your director's report.
Okay, so just want to go over some of the things the health department did through the in the aftermath of the sewer main break. So where Kathy Lefebvre, our inspector, did a lot of work with the shanties and the restaurants. I'd like her to just give us a quick briefing on.
Yes, and explain to the board what was banned from fishing and what was not and why.
I can do that.
Because
after
that's
she's
still a little mystifying to me, but
Yeah, well, I can do that now. Right now,
however you want to do it, Kathy or you.
well, I can give you the
Yes.
what's banned and what isn't.
Yes.
Shellfishing is closed with the exception of the adductor mussel
Right.
of the scallop. Whole in-shell scallops is also banned, which, believe it or not, we do have some people who do ship those away. So that's banned, and like I said, the adductor mussel only is allowed for taking. And I think, well, I know the reason is that you're not consuming the entrails of the shellfish. You're consuming the adductor mussel, and it's deemed safe through the cooking process, heating all sides, and an internal temperature that's appropriate, there shouldn't be a safety issue for consuming, although we would highly recommend that they're not consumed raw under certain.
Right.
And, you know, it's always a risk to consume raw.
Well, we discussed that, but maybe you inform the board that we really could not ban the abductor.
Oh, yeah. So,
That got a little confusing.
right, we did look into, should the town consider closing, trying to close the scallop fishery. We did look into whether we had the authority, and through the Department of Public Health and Division of Marine Fisheries, this board or the town did not have the authority to close that fishery. It's all DMF. So in light of that, we felt like we should be proactive and get out and reiterate sanitation and food handling and food cooking procedures within the restaurants, the scallop shanties, and for the public. And that's what Kathy would be able to provide, sort of the ins and outs of what we did.
Okay.
Good evening. For the record, Kathy LaFave, Health Inspector. So what we did last on the 5th, on Friday the 5th, we issued an advisory, emergency closure to any of the restaurants that were north of the Dreamland Theater. And at that point, there's not too many open right now. We're talking about Stubby's, Island Coffee, Walters, and Lola 41. So we manually walked down. We posted the restaurants that were open. We also put some advisory notices on the ones that, you know, no one was in at that time. We also sent out a blast email to all those establishments. And then we followed up a few days later with an advisory on sanitation and cooking. And that ended up going out to the restaurants that we had to close, and we asked them to remain closed until the town was through with their decontamination. So they had to decontaminate inside as well as outside. And then we had building and fire go through, confirm their COIs, and then we were able to come in and do our health inspections to those restaurants, the few that were open. Art also did a walkthrough of that whole entire area just to sort of get a feel for what was going on down there. We followed up as well with a blast email to our food service providers and our caterers, just reiterating the need for hand washing, proper sanitizing, proper cooking temperatures, storage of shellfish. We followed up with the shanties. We gave them a laminated informational piece and advisory that they could put up in their shanties. And again, we dealt with proper hand washing, proper sanitizing, storage, temperatures, cooking temperatures, and we asked them to post it so that their shuckers could read it, become aware of it. We also asked them to be careful about sanitizing at the end of the day, including their clothing, their aprons, their boots, their gloves, and again, hand washing, adding the hand sanitizer at the end of that. We followed up with walking to the shanties the end of last week, and again this week on Tuesday and Wednesday night. We visited with them when they were open to discuss any issues they might have. We gave out test strips to them, just kind of did a face-to-face. And then we also, last week and into this week of Monday, we did the reopening inspections of several restaurants that were closed in that area. Stubby's had an inspection, Station 21, and Lola 41 on Monday. So we're working right alongside Building and Fire to get people open once the town has given us the okay to go into that area. So that's pretty much what we've done. We've been in touch with them, as I said, via email and in person. And we've had some folks come in and just ask us some questions, so we're dealing with it one-on-one as well. So that's kind of it in a brief nutshell.
And how's the water latest testing?
Well, right now, you know, daily sampling has been going on in Nantucket Harbor since this happened.
Yeah.
they're testing for total nitrogen, coliform, and a couple other things. Based on sampling information, there's been substantial flushing in the harbor. The water sample numbers are all going in the right direction. They're sampling several sites. The most impacted sites are Steamship Authority, Yacht Club, and Easy Street Basin. I think they're doing those multiple times a day. And again, we're seeing numbers change significantly in that area. And DMF was actually Natural Resources, that's who's doing the sampling. But they also did some sampling for Division of Marine Fisheries. So they took some harbor samples, water samples, and also took shellfish samples.
Where in the harbor? How far out?
All
All
over. So, and they'll do their pathology on those. So that's where we are. Things. The chief and David Gray and Rob McNeil are here. If you have any questions regarding the sewer main break, the roads.
When they do the pathology and the testing, I mean, what specifically are they looking for?
I don't have that information at the moment.
It's kind of hard to. Some of the viruses I'd really like to know about are really hard to do.
We'll certainly have that when Roberto's back and Jeff. I'm sure they're going to put together a comprehensive. I mean, we're sort of in the middle of this thing.
Right. And where's the testing done?
The testing, they've got 8. I believe there's 8 sites, and 3 of them.
Yeah, but who actually does the testing?
Oh, Natural Resources.
In their own lab.
No. They're being sent away to an off-island certified laboratory.
I mean, they can't do viruses.
No.
Like,
No, DMF's doing it in their own lab.
yeah, okay.
But it'd be nice to know what they're testing for.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
We will have that information.
I mean, the test for like hepatitis
Yep.
A or C or something is not easy. It'd be interesting.
Well, I currently don't have that information as to what they're doing, as far as specifically what they're testing for.
are there things that we're concerned about we want them to test for?
Well, I mean, obviously, in septic, you think about hepatitis, E. coli are the really big things to be concerned about.
Norovirus.
That's the cruise ship illness.
Well, they're cold. They
It's
can
cold
survive in cool waters or become dormant and then become active.
Yeah.
So they are important.
And I had a friend actually try to do some research on the viruses about their temperature and heat, and it's actually kind of a little, for some of them, like hepatitis C, it's kind of fuzzy. So those are things I'd be concerned about.
That's what we're concerned about. That's why we stepped up the...
From a health perspective of the humans, but then all the other things going into the health perspective of the harbor and the eelgrass is another issue.
Right.
So do we want to ask that those be?
Well, I'd like to know exactly what's testing. Is there a protocol of that some way? Yes, Chief.
Yeah, Bill Pittman, Police Chief. The only thing I know is I had a conversation with Jeff Carlson before they did this. The results we're getting back from the water testing, there's about 6 or 8 different things that are on there. DMF has their own testing protocol that they employ after a sewage spill. Okay, so it's probably a standard protocol that they use. We'll get a report back from them that has all the different things. I think what we should do is wait until we get that report, which could be any day now. We kind of thought it might even be today. And then if there's something you want in addition to that, the town would probably have to get the samples and send them off to our own lab to get done, because I doubt DMF is probably going to do them just on our
No, but I'd just love to know what they're doing.
Yeah, so as soon as we get the report, we'll go share that. Okay.
So, and Art, so you'll distribute that to this committee, this board, as soon as you get it?
Soon as it,
We won't wait for another meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
We will not wait. As soon as they're in my hands, they'll be in your hands.
Okay. Any other questions about the board? And
Do you want to ask David or Mr. McNeil any questions regarding the incident?
How's the cleanup of the streets going?
Rob McNeil, DPW. Thank you for asking. We've released press releases every day to keep people up to speed on what's happening. Happy to report that our vendor, Clean Harbors, was able to mobilize and start the decontamination of the affected streets and sidewalks virtually immediately following the event. As of Monday, this past Monday, they had completed all of the surface decontamination. Specs were sent off to DEP for approval, and I think Art has a copy of that as well for the records. Essentially, a chlorine bleach solution was applied to the sidewalks and streets and ultimately vacuumed up and removed. So that's been completed. And subsurface utilities, a lot of things that folks don't normally think about, little handholds, things that water can find its way into, including the utility conduits that feed back to the main vaults. So those are all being worked on now. They've been transitioning from surface to subsurface. Happened on Monday. They're continuing that effort now with Verizon and National Grid. So we expect that to be finished
So
out.
the electrical cables go along the top of the sewer? How would you?
No, this is not necessarily related to sewer. It's just anywhere within the related streets. And maybe you're talking about the marine cables?
Yeah, the marine cables. I mean,
Yes.
how do you? They're electrical. How would you clean them? Or?
No, we're talking about not the transmission lines,
Yeah,
but
but all
more
the
distribution lines.
Yeah.
The smaller size cables that are basically feeding electricity to each structure in and around that downtown area. So there's small little handholds that electricians access. It's like an access port to pull cable through and make a connection underground instead of an overhead connection. All the electrical work in the affected areas a lot of it is underground. So it's a matter of cleaning out those handholds, treating them, and having the vaults materials, the water and such that it's collected in there, taken down, decontaminating those vaults or manholes, and allowing that water to feed back into the vaults through the conduit systems, treating those as well with chlorine.
What about all the water meters and things like that? They're down below the street, they flush those out, or how do they clean it around?
The water meters I have not discussed with the water department yet. I know a lot of those things are free draining, but certainly we're addressing all subsurface utilities at this point.
Okay, thank you. I think the whole town has been excellent about keeping people informed about what's being happened.
Oh, we appreciate that. Obviously, everyone's seen the water conservation message that's gone out to help us gain some capacity in the sewer system. That's extended out to TV, radio, as well as being announced as people are getting off the boats. So it's a good measure. That's helping.
Well, I live at the corner of North Water and C Street, so I've watched it all
from a higher vantage.
From a higher vantage point, yes. It's been quite interesting. Anything else on the break or the health issues? And fine.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to Art and the support of the board. It's been very helpful through this event. I know David has high things to say about the cooperation between departments, getting notices out, and keep people informed through this process.
Yeah,
so
it's been very good.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So, any other issues, businesses?
We don't. Thanks, guys.
You'll just send me what they're studying.
What's that?
You'll send me the reports when you get the reports.
Yo, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I get them, or Roberto gets them, I'm sure that there's, because information's coming in daily.
Yep. Any other issues for the board?
Just one question. Did that community health assessment survey get finalized, and is it up on the website?
I am not aware.
Or the status of the strategic plan, and,
Unfortunately, I'm in septic world.
You're in the
and,
septic world?
I'm unprepared to answer that question at this time.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll hear when Roberto gets back. Any other questions for Art?
But I can certainly find out in the interim and maybe get some, maybe shoot you an email tomorrow.
I know Roberto was getting some other input from different areas.
Okay.
I just didn't know if it had been finalized, but I knew that he was preparing to have it go public. So.
I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
but we will find out for you.
Thanks.
All right, hearing nothing else, hearing no objections, we will adjourn by unanimous consent. Thank you. Thanks. That was